Today, we're talking about something that I think almost every single stepmom I know has struggled with at one point or another.
I'm Cameron. I spent years building my career and creating a life I loved. And when my Prince Charming finally showed up, he had 4 kids in tow. Fast forward through lots of mistakes made and lessons learned, step family life was much more complicated than I realized. If you're looking for help with blended family life, you're in the right place. Welcome to the Stepmom Diaries, where we keep it real as we dish about all the things. This is your weekly dose of blended family inspiration and encouragement. You're not the wicked stepmother, so let me help you find your fairy tale ending. Come on, let's do this.
Welcome, welcome. Today, I wanted to tackle something that I know I have struggled with for a long time, and I thought it might resonate with you too. It's something that I think actually a lot of stepmoms struggle with, and that's guilt. So let's talk about it. I don't know about you, but when I became a stepmom, I put an enormous amount of pressure on myself, which I think is pretty normal. But to be clear, let's acknowledge that I've always put a lot of pressure on myself, right? If you follow the Enneagram, I'm an Enneagram 3, so self-pressure tracks pretty closely. But I've always been a perfectionist. I've always been a little bit of a people pleaser. And I've generally always operated under the working rule that my needs don't matter as much as other people's, and that making things easier for other people should always come before my own needs. Now, I'll just say there are lots of childhood things around all that, but I'll let my therapist tackle that, right? No, in all seriousness, though, those qualities did make me a great student. They made me a successful businesswoman, and I have ended up in leadership roles or in charge of things in pretty much every organization I've gotten involved with since high school. Pretty much my whole life. But those qualities can also be a pressure cooker. And for me, I discovered in my 30s that I had had a not insignificant amount of anxiety for most of my life, and that had gone unaddressed. I didn't even know that there was a name to how I had felt, but it had been impacting my life and my relationships in all kinds of ways. And, thank goodness I have a great therapist. I got the help I needed. And I was able to deal with a lot of the other kind of background stuff in the meantime. I can't say enough good things about therapy. I'm also really thankful that I ended up married to a guy who also believes in therapy. All of our kids have been in therapy at one point or another. And after all, as Craig says, it's just talking, right? I think it's really important to deal with some of those things that we bring into our relationships, right? So, but all of that is a really long way of saying that those qualities I had, the perfectionism, the drive, when I combined all of that with the pressure of stepmom life, it made a difficult situation even worse. And for real, I want you to know that even if you're not the type of person that puts a lot of pressure on themselves already, I was, but that certainly doesn't mean that every stepmom out there is. You may not put a lot of pressure on yourself just in life generally, but when you become a stepmom, you kind of do become that type. Because even if you think you know what you're getting into, you are thrown into a situation where pretty much nothing plays out like you think it's going to. Yes, you knew your partner had kids. You knew they had an ex. But I guarantee that those two things you knew do not in any way mean that you knew how things were going to go. There are surprises along the way. I would say most of them not on the fun side of surprises, right? And because there's so much that comes up that you don't know is going to come, so much that's unexpected, you really get stuck kind of being thrown into a situation where you're just working through it all as best you can. And if you don't think about getting professional coaching or help. And let's be honest here. How many of us did that before we got married or moved in with our partners? I didn't. I didn't even think about it. So if you're not getting that professional coaching or professional help or therapy or any of that stuff, you're really just stumbling through, like trying to make it through every day. And that can make the days really miserable, right? And it can mean that you're putting so much pressure on yourself because you think things need to be done in a certain way or a certain, how things, should be addressed in a certain way. So, I mean, for example, maybe you knew your spouse's ex was high conflict, but you probably didn't expect that very first time that one of the kids came to you and said, "My mom says you hate her." um, what? So, what do you say in that moment? How do you react? And, the real question is, as you're stumbling through this and doing the best you can in reacting to these things that you don't expect, how hard on yourself are you? Or let's say you're left alone with your stepchild and they refuse to do what you ask them to do. What do? I can give you ways to handle that. I can give you scripts. But if you're a new stepmom and you haven't reached out for that help yet, or you don't know that that help is out there, what do you say? You do the best you can. And how much are you second guessing yourself after the fact, right? It gets really easy for us to replay things in our head and think about how we could have handled them better. How much are you worried that you're going to damage these kids who are already dealing with the trauma of their parents splitting up? I mean, I think it's really easy to stew on a lot of this stuff. I mean, how often do you feel guilty about your actions or reactions or your thoughts, even your thoughts, feel like you should be feeling something else? And we call this shoulding yourself, by the way. Have you ever wished your stepchild wasn't going to come over? Or maybe that they came over a little less because you're on edge every time they come over. Or what about this one? Maybe you like one of your stepkids more than the other. That's a doozy. Maybe you don't even really like that other one much. But as soon as you think about those thoughts, you feel guilty about it because that's your spouse's child you're having those thoughts about. And you should love them and you should want to love them. And when you fail or when you fall short or when you have these feelings that you don't think you should be having, as you inevitably will, you're going to fail. You're going to have unkind feelings and thoughts. You're going to have all kinds of feelings. But when you fail, it makes it feel even worse. I mean, should we talk about the time that I called my stepson a little shit? Yeah, that's right. Step family coach Cameron called my stepson a little shit. In my defense, he had gotten physical with me and had hit me. But let's be honest, he was like 10. I did not exactly cover myself in glory, right? That is not the reaction that you ought to have to a 10-year-old. And I had been pretty fed up and, things had kind of come to a head, but that's really not how I should have reacted. Now, I did own it and I apologized to him once everybody had cooled down, but I felt pretty terrible about it. I know that's not how you talk to a child. I know he felt bad about his part in it too. And you can be sure that my husband's ex threw that one back at me more than once, you know? So, so let's talk about guilt, right? Guilt over the job we're doing, the feelings we're feeling, maybe the things we say. Maybe we aren't covering ourselves in glory at all times and we feel like we should. Again, there's that shoulding on ourselves, right? So let's talk about this. I want you to know a couple of things. First of all, this is all normal. It is normal to question whether you're doing a good job. And rest assured, if you're questioning it, you're probably doing a great job. Because if you weren't, you wouldn't be questioning it, if that makes sense. But it's normal. It's normal to wonder how you're doing. It's normal to have some of these thoughts. It's normal to feel bad for things you think about or things you feel. All of these feelings are normal, right? But second thing, I want to deconstruct some of this guilt, some of these shoulds for a minute. It's real easy for me to just say, don't feel guilty for how you're feeling. Just don't feel guilty. You don't need to feel guilty about it. Those feelings are normal. I mean, that's true. You should not feel guilty for having feelings, even if you think those feelings are unkind or negative. But in reality, telling you not to feel guilty is not going to get you there, especially if that guilt is because you feel like you should do all these things and you're shoulding all over yourself and thinking about how you should be a stepmom or how you should feel about something. So how do you move through these shoulds? How do you move through this guilt? It can be crippling and it can really make you miserable. Um, well, I'm going to give you a couple of things to think about, and whether you want to do the journaling part of this or not. Not everybody's a journaler, but I am a big fan of writing things down. For me, it helps clarify things and kind of helps me think through my complicated emotions. So if you're a journal type person, get out your paper and pen or your cute little journal, or open up your laptop if that's the way that you process things. And if you're not a journaler, just sit and think about this a little bit. First of all, I want you to think about why you're feeling like you're feeling. Where is this guilt coming from? Where are these shoulds coming from? Is that feeling that you're having, that you're feeling guilty about, is that really wrong? Or is that just a belief that you have? And if it's a belief, where did it come from? Is it a belief that someone else has, an expectation that they may have of you? And is it reasonable? Right? These are big questions, but it's important to really look at these feelings. Is that expectation, I should be doing this, I should be showing up at school for my stepkids event. Is that reasonable? Maybe. But maybe not if showing up there is going to disrupt your peace, if showing up there is going to make you crazy. Maybe that is not reasonable to expect, right? So then I want you to think about, does your guilt, do these shoulds, does it feel proportionate? What would you tell your best friend if they confided these thoughts to you? If your best friend came to you and said, you know what, my stepkids are coming over and I'm kind of excited to see Susie, but boy, Johnny just really kills me. I just can't take him. What would you say to your best friend? Spoiler alert, my guess is that you would give them a lot more grace than you're showing yourself. Am I right? You might say to your friend, God, I can't believe you feel like that. That just must really stink. That must feel bad. That must feel bad to feel that way. That must be hard. You wouldn't castigate them. You wouldn't say to your friend, why are you saying that? You should love both your kids the same. You should do this. You should do that. I don't think you'd say that to your best friend. So I would think about, the kind of grace that you would give to someone else who came to you with this. I also want you to think about, in so many ways, feeling guilty is you taking on a responsibility for others that really isn't fair for you, right? It's taking on responsibility for their feelings, for their unhappiness, and sometimes even for their anger, right? So in the situation of, I should show up at my kid's school. I should show up at this school because at the school play or whatever. I should show up because the ex is going to say bad things about me if I don't. The ex is going to get angry if I don't. The child is going to be unhappy if I don't. So that's you kind of taking on responsibility for those emotions, right? If it's going to make you crazy to go and have to sit with the ex at that event, then have the conversation with your stepchild. Hey, I can't make it to your event, but I can't wait to hear about it when you get back. I'm so excited for you. Have the conversation with them. You can't take on responsibility for their emotions or for the anger of the ex. It's not really fair, right? And again, you wouldn't want your best friend to take on responsibility for those emotions of other people. So, the last thing I want you to think about is, does holding on to this guilt help or hurt you? Does it help you be the healthiest, happiest version of yourself? Now, you can probably guess where I'm going with that. I think the answer is probably no. And that may seem like an oversimplification, right? But my guess is, even if you say that the guilt hurts you and you know that it doesn't help you be the healthiest, happiest version of yourself, you may think to yourself, well, I can't let it go. I feel too bad. I need to hang on to this. I get it. I get it. But the last thing I want you to do, and I know I said that this last thing was the last thing, but this really is the last thing. I want you to read through, if you did this via journal, I want you to read through what you've journaled here. And I want you to sit with this. And I want you to be uncomfortable for a minute. And then I want you to try to let it pass. Let it pass over you and move on. Now, if it helps, and I like this too. If it helps, write out a statement in your journal that says, I forgive myself for thinking X, Y, and Z. I forgive myself for feeling guilty about not going to this event. I release myself from feeling guilty and I am moving on. If you have a hard time letting go even after that, take that statement down and make it a mantra. I forgive myself. I release myself. I'm moving on. Say that when those should feelings creep in. You can even go further. I should go to this event. You can say, I release myself. I'm moving on. I promise it'll help. It'll just be a little verbal, inside your head reminder that it is okay. It's okay to feel these feelings and think these thoughts, but that you need to move on, right? I hope that makes sense. We've actually talked a lot about this recently inside the Step Family Circle, which is my monthly membership, about kind of coming to terms with our thoughts and feelings around stepmom life. And it's so helpful for members to come together in a non-judgmental place to talk these things through. It's really been, wonderful to see these light bulb moments of, oh, I'm not the only person that feels this way, or, but them helping each other, our step family members. When we do these group coaching sessions, it's amazing to watch them give each other advice and, say, oh, I dealt with that a few months ago and this is what I did. And it's really great. I actually just posted a resource for our members to access, and it's a list of some of these journal prompts to help with this feeling of, I should be doing this, the shoulding all over yourself, or the feelings of guilt. And I tell you, there's just, when you can write this out or say the mantra or whatever it is that kind of helps you release some of this, it's a really great feeling. It's a really great feeling. So I hope that helps you today. This is just one little tip that has helped me over the years release some of the pressure that I have put on myself to be perfect, or to do all the things, or to feel like I should be doing things I'm not, or I shouldn't be doing things I am. And I hope you enjoyed this. If you did, please head over to Apple or wherever you listen and leave me a rating. It will help me reach more and more stepmoms just like you. And I will see you back here next week.
That's it for this week. If you've enjoyed our chat, I hope you'll help spread the word. Share this episode with friends and head on over to wherever you listen to podcasts and leave me a review. And don't forget, for more great stepmom content, head on over to thiscustomlife.com and follow me on social media. Just search This Custom Life on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and Pinterest. Until next time, you keep being you and know that we are in this together. See you here next week.